This video will demonstrate step 4 of the 6-step programming process on our simulator project. When we're done with this, we will be done with the main function and we will not look back. It will have everything in it that we need. It's a driver, so after that we just have to pick up the things that need to be driven. And we will do that a little bit later on in steps 5 and 6. Go ahead and take a look at our code now. Starting from here, we did step 1 where we did the major components. And then we did step 2 where we did a couple of minor components, but there weren't very many minor ones because there's almost all these steps are critical. And again, it's just a driver. It just drives things. It just calls things. It tests to see what should be called, and it protects itself from crashing. Let's go ahead and jump in here. I'm going to initialize the variables. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to initialize all the ones that we need rather than going back and forth and filling these in. While I really develop a program like this, I would one by one, as I got to them, I would add them to my initialization. But that's going to cost some time, and we try to keep this video from being way too long. So there's the variables I'm going to need. We'll look at them as we go along. We're going to show the title, no big deal here. Going to simulate a program with an underline here. We're going to start right off by checking for only one argument. And we'll always remember to put in your curly braces. If you'd like to find out how to burn an entire afternoon off without accomplishing anything, try forgetting to put your aligned curly braces in here. That'll show you how to do that. So anyway, I'm going to start with arg2. Now this is up here. Argc is the count. It's a number of arguments, the count of the arguments. And it'll have a number. Once main starts, it'll say, I know how many things were on the command line. Argv is actually a pointer to a pointer. And essentially what it is a, if you start with this part right here, it's a char star, which is a string, and it's a pointer to a series of strings. This can also be run as an array as well if you do it the right way. But nevertheless, that's what these are, and we will be using them momentarily. We're going to check right off the bat. Is argc less than 2? In other words, is it only 1, which means they did not type in at least a couple. They have to put in at least 2 more arguments. That's not there. So if that happens, we're going to show them the program format, which again, we've got stubbed out down below. We'll deal with that later. And then we will unset the program run flag. We're not going to have the data or information we need, but we'll also set the info flag to true. And the reason we're doing that is because we have shown the program format here, and we're going to fall through and possibly fail later. But at the point of failing later, we will do this again. We just don't want to have to do it twice. We'll set that file name to empty. That's an easy thing to do right there. Now we're going to loop across the arguments. And again, I told you about argc there. We'll come down here and get our curly brace down here. So right now we're setting the program run flag to false. We're not going to plan on it running until it's proven otherwise. So we're going to do this loop looking for arguments to see if they're there while it's false. And then we will also run while the arg index is less than argc, the count of arguments. Okay, we got to find a couple of lengths here. We're going to do this by getting the file strlen, the first one, and whatever that is, maybe it's 8 characters. And then we're going to find the substring .cnf, and that's going to give us an index to that location. We're going to use that in just a little bit here. But we're going to come down here. We're going to check for DC. This means using a compare string, and we're going to compare to see if -DC is in there with argv of this particular index. Now, understanding that with the way this loop works, this index could be in any order on the command line. We show it as -DC and DM and RS and then the file. But the truth of the matter is that with this loop and the way this is organized, they can put them in any order and they'll get away with it. Okay, but if we found that, then we're going to set that config upload flag to true, because no matter what else we do, we have to upload the config flag, and we will set the config display flag to true as well. Next up, -dm. We'll check for it, put in our other curly brace, that look for -dm. If that's the case, we still have to upload the config file, so we'll set that flag to true, and we'll also set our metadata display flag to true. Otherwise, if we're coming down here, this will be an else if. We're going to check for the -rs to run the simulator using compare string. We promised to do that. In this case, again, the set config upload flag has to be set to true because we cannot run the simulator without uploading the config upload here. And then we will set the run sim flag to true. Okay, the last but not least here, the else if, it's not a substring found. Okay, so when we did this part right up here, if it was found that the substring's not found, this is a not equal not found, so we're looking for it to be found. And then we say subloc is a file strlen minus the last four letters, which means this should have been 4. Okay, it should show the index of that coming backwards from the file strlen. Okay, if that's the case, then in fact we've got ourselves, we put our curly brace in, we can set our file name appropriately, and then we can set our run program flag. Now remember, this run program flag was false all the way along. This is going to get us out of the loop at this point. So this does have to be the last item because it won't collect anything after that. But this will get us out of the loop, and it will tell us that we can continue down below. We have to, for purposes of the loop, we have to update the arg index. So that's set there. And now we've got the loop completely done here. If the program run flag is set to false, that means something failed up here. And also, if the info flag is false, that means that the error message has not been shown yet, because it might have been shown way up above at the very beginning. But this means it has not been shown yet. So we can put the comment in here for program aborted, and we can show them what they should have done with the arguments on their command line. Okay, starting up here now on program run flag, that's how we're going to test from here on out. We'll set this up here, curly braces aligned, program run flag is true, and if our config upload flag is true, which mostly it's going to be, all right, then we will go ahead and get our config data here, and we will make sure that the file name is greater than 0, that we actually got something there. If that's the case and we got the get config data and it worked, then we can go ahead and say, all right, did they want to see it displayed? If so, we test for that, and then we show them the display. Otherwise, now if this fails right here, it means we either lost our file name or we didn't get anything uploaded here. So we're going to set up our bracket here, and then we'll show the error message, config upload error, and so on. And then we will unset that program run flag because it's going to be checked again and again. Checking for the program run flag here. We've got a pretty big one here, curly braces open and closed. Now we're checking, is it okay to program run? Do they want to see the display flag or the run flag? Or both is okay. All right, if that's the case, we'll come in here and handle a couple of birds with one stone. We'll go ahead and bracket that out. We'll do our get metadata, which is also its own test. If it fails, it will return false. But if it returns true, then we will go ahead and check, did they want to see a metadata display? If they did, we'll give it to them. We will check and see if they wanted to see the simulator run. If they did, we will show them running. Otherwise, if this did fail right here, we'll have the else and its block, and we'll print the failure metadata upload error. We're done. Now we have pretty much the entire program. We will go ahead, and I mentioned this before, in the config data, that's all coming in as allocated data. We asked for it from the operating system, so we have to put it back. Unlike Java or some other languages, you're responsible for whatever memory you take out of the operating system, you got to put it back. We have a method called clear config data, and we also have a method called clear metadata list. One of them handles the config data, which is probably just a data structure, and then the other one's the metadata list, which is a linked list. All done with that, we will show them that the simulator program is ended, and we will be done. So the whole program went pretty quickly, because if you took more time doing the comments, if you took more time doing the steps and figuring out what your tools would be, your programming really is just translation. It's just sticking things in to spots where you told yourself to put things into. It is way, way easier than hacking your way through a program, which rarely works at programs at this level. Okay, so we should be able to just save this guy, and we'll go ahead and compile it, make sure it's okay. And our compile log says, yep, it's okay. One thing I would do if I wasn't doing it in this system here, if I were in my regular Linux system, again, each time I typed a line or two, I would compile. You need to compile after every line of typing or two, because if you don't, you'll end up with 50,000 errors, all caused by three things. and you don't want to do that. You type in a new line right here, you compile and you see that it broke, but it was good prior to that. You know exactly where the problem is. Okay, let's see if we can run this thing. We'll come to our command line here. Okay, again, this is a Windows command line, and we're faking some of this here, but the program's not fake. This is actually a really running program, and so we'll do that for purposes of this. In your Linux, you'll be doing this with multiple files and some other variables. But for right now, to do this on a video, we're doing it this way. I'm going to bring up the name of the program here, OSSimDriver 4, and run it here. I get my title. My show program format is called here. The reason for that is because, in fact, my arguments was only one. So it showed the program format. It should have told me what I needed to do this correctly. But that's okay. We don't know what those functions do yet. They'll deal with that later. Notice also that clear config file and clear metadata list are called without any protection. As it turns out, both of these methods protect themselves from trying to clear already empty data quantities. So it doesn't hurt to have them here. They don't have to be protected inside if statements up above. So they actually do get called every time, but they may not do anything in some circumstances. Okay, so let's go ahead and try it a little differently here. Let's do a dash DC. We'll display the config, and we'll go ahead and give it our config file name here, CNF. And we have here the get config data was called here, so and got called. The display config data was done, and then we cleared things. So we're looking pretty good there. Let's do the DM, display metadata. And we get the config data. You have to have that to get the metadata list because the config data has the file name of the metadata list in there. Then you got the metadata, displayed it, and then you cleared your two data sets here. All right, let's go ahead and do one more here. We'll do the RS. And remember, we can do these in combination if we want to. We can do DM, DC, and RS if we want to. We can do all those together. And so we got the config. That was going to get called no matter which of these got called. We displayed the config data here. We got the metadata called. We displayed the metadata. And then we ran the sim, and then we cleared the config data, and then we cleared the metadata list. So we have a completely running program right now. And there will not be any reason to come back to this and refix things or tweak or worry about whatever's going on from here forward. This program is ready to go. All we need to do now is fill in some blanks. And with that, we will go ahead and finish this one up. The blanks we'll be filling in will be steps 5 and 6 for all of the functions that we need to work with on this operation. And we will go ahead and do those in the next couple of videos. So we'll end this one here.